All right, so we've switched over to the paper. We're still in the fixture assembly DWG file. You can see a portion of the model is being shown here. In our layout, if you take a look at your layers, you want to make sure that you turn on that viewport layer. You can see it's already in there. We're going to reposition it. So if we select that viewport, we could reposition it in the layout here. And remember, this is going to be shown as our exploded assembly view. Okay? We'll need to use solid profile to render the hidden and the visible lines and update the layer properties to attain line weight. You'll notice here too that you have two different tables, but actually they're based on the same table style. You'll notice the one for the hole tolerances, this is going to be top down. The bill of materials is going to be bottom up. All right, so let's take a look at some of the formatting that we'll need before we begin. So here I am in the B size layout. First thing I want to do is take a look at my page setup. All right, we're going to make PDFs, so we want to make sure that we create a new page setup here. And we're going to use the DWG to PDF printer. So we'll just call this PDF B size. We'll use DWG to PDF printer. We'll use the expanded B size, 17 by 11, extends, center of the plot, scales 1:1, and we'll want to use the HP Plotter Mono Student number 2 color table. These are our class standard tables. This one allows us to print in color. Okay, you can also check display plot styles. This will make sense later once we've rendered the views, so we can see the line weight based on the colors that we selected for the layers. The quality here, let's use presentation, and then double check your orientation. If you do a quick preview, even though you don't have anything there, you can at least verify that you have the entire title block. Right click and exit, save your page setup, set it current for the current layout selected, and close. All right, and you can see some of your layer information should be represented in black and white, as you can see there. Okay, so returning to the viewport here. All right, let's set up the view here, and then we'll come around and start working with the callouts and the tables. For our view here, what you'll want to do is double click to activate the model space. You can use your navigation wheel here, or you can use the options in the top left corner of the viewport. First, if it's easier to see it in conceptual, let's do that. And let's set up a southeast isometric view. Now notice it does a zoom extents, and what we want to focus on here is going to be the exploded view. Now the exploded view does not have to be to scale, but you can see here if we set it, for example, 1:1, that's a pretty big size representation. We set it 1:2, that should be adequate right there. Okay, so make sure everything is shown, all the layers for your model are shown here. Okay, and this will be the view. In order to see the visible and hidden lines, what we'll need to do is we'll need to render the view. And we'll do that using the modeling panel, and in this case using solid profile command. What we're able to do here is select all of the solid models, right? And keep in mind each of these on their own respective layer. When you hit enter, take a look at the options there, and basically you're projecting all the lines, so just hit enter continuously through all of the prompts. Okay, now what you'll see is you'll see some additional line work, but in order to see it clearly you'll need to freeze the component part layers, but freeze the layers only for this view part. Okay, so take a look at layers over here, and what you'll do is find those 3D component layers. You can see here's the spacer, and we'll use freeze for this current viewport only. The end plate, the disc, the corner pins, and the center pin. Okay, now I'm going to lock the viewport and zoom in. Currently you will see no difference in line weight, right? And what AutoCAD has done is, if we return to layers, you can see that it's produced this PH and PV layers. If we open up our layer manager, we can work with this better. Okay, locate PH. You can see those are the hidden lines. Set that to the blue color. Oh, where do the layers go? Oh, there they are. Okay, and then for the PV layer, or the profile visible, set that to the cyan. Okay, now if I use view and regen all, okay, let's try that again. View region. Well, these should turn to black. Okay, we should see the line weight there. Actually, if we go to output and preview one more time, here's where we would see that. Now, actually, if you recall too, the reason why we don't see it in black and white is because if you activate the viewport here, you'll notice it's still in a 3D display style. It's conceptual, it's for 3D. You won't see your plot styles this way. So make sure we set this back to 2D wireframe. There you go. Now, if I zoom in, you'll be able to distinguish line weight based on your layer colors. Okay? So, and that's if you have the line weight show on, right? So if I zoom extends here, I can see the entire view, return to the paper space, and now we can turn our attention to formatting the multi-leader styles and also the table styles that we're going to use. Oh, for the formatting of the multi-leader style, you can see we're going to use this bomb callout, this bubble with an attribute that we can represent as numbers or letters if we like. And you can see that we can show arrowheads or dots for our arrowheads. So it's really up to you, the style that you want to show. But let's take a look at the formatting for that, as well as for the tables. So, return to your Annotate tab, and you'll see your multi-leaders. Go to the multi-leader style manager. Okay. Now, one thing is this. We can create a multi-leader that we could just use in the paper space, or we could use a multi-leader that we use in either space, right? If we're going to use it in the model space, we got to make sure that it's annotative. So, if we create a new multi-leader style, you can see here we can make it annotative. We can start with standard, that's fine, and we could call it BIM or bomb callout, like that, and continue. Now, what you'll do is, you'll notice we have leader format here. You'll see we have straight, we have spline, as you can see there. And then you'll see down here arrowhead that we have closed filled, or something like a dot, or any of these other arrowheads. Okay? So just use something that's appropriate. You can see there's dot small, and there's dot like that. Alright? You can use the default size or adjust it as you wish. If you look at the leader structure then, keep the defaults as you see here. We have 2 leader points, so we can pick where the leader goes, where the leader finishes, and then it'll create the bent leader line and attach what we're going to use as a block. So for that, if you look at content, you can see here multi-leader type. Currently it's set to mtext, but what we're going to do is we're going to use a block, and now you can see your options change. If you look at source block here, what we'll be able to do is you'll have your selection here, hexagon, triangle, box. We'll use a circle. Okay, now these are predefined blocks with attributes. You can see there, tag number is the attribute. Alright, and we'll click OK. And this will be our multi-leader style to call out all the parts. Let's make sure, let's modify one more time. Let's make sure that we made it annotative, right? Let's select annotative there. Make sure it's annotative. Click OK. Now you can see the annotate symbol. All right, and close. Now, before we start doing the bubble callouts, let's go ahead and take a look at the table styles too. So, taking a look again at the Annotate tab, you can see here we only have a standard table style, but we'll take a look at the Table Style Manager. And the idea here is that we're going to create a style that defines the properties for the title, the header, and the data cells for our table. So if I start with New, I'm going to call this BOM. Okay, and continue here, and you'll see on the left side, the bottom left side here, you have a preview. Also, you'll notice here table direction, right? So this has to do with the style. You'll notice here the table direction is up or down, right? This is the orientation for our BOM table. It's different for our whole table. So what we could do here is use up. Take a look at the cell styles, starting with title. Okay, we have general, text, and borders. Now, even though we're not going to use the title for either of these tables, let's just go ahead and define the properties. Okay, you'll notice here we've got alignment, middle center, the text. You can see it's just using standard. But if you look at the options dialog button right here, this will bring us to the text style manager. This shows us all the different text sizes that we have in our current model, right? So you'll notice here dims, right? Dims is a text style that is 0.125 and it's annotative and it's using Romans, right? Let's just say we wanted to create our own text style for tables, right? Here's what we could do. We could create a new text style. We could call it table text, for example. Okay. There's our new text style. And we could decide this is going to use Arial, for example. So we locate Arial text style there. And we could define the paper text height, right, as 0.125. We can do other effects here like width factor or even oblique angle. And we could create multiple text styles if we wanted them to vary for the title, the header, or the data cells. Okay? But this will be just a generic text that we'll use for all aspects of the table. Once we've defined those properties, we can click Apply, Close. Now, back into our Table Style Manager here, you can see I'm in Titles, adjusting the text. You can see it's already set to Table Text. And here also, we can change the color independent of the layer on which we place the table. So you could do this so that if you wanted to emphasize the text or vice versa, you wanted to emphasize the table, you can have different line weights based on the color. So here if I wanted to, I could just change it to red, really thin, or light line weight, or even to something like the lighter line weights that I have over here with color 8 and 9. Borders, we want all sides to be enclosed with border. Okay? And then also you can see here you can change the color of the frame of the border independently of the layer on which the table is created. So that's just title. Let's switch over to header. Once again, you can look through all of these options. Put a frame around that cell. Take a look at text. We'll use again table text here. General, you'll see its alignment is middle center. We'll keep that. Switch over to data. Confirm this. We have alignment there. We'll do middle center there too. Text, we'll use table text. And borders here, we'll make sure that we fully enclose the cell with a frame. Okay, so this is just the table style for our BOM. If I click OK here, the only difference between that and the hold tolerance is this. Click New again. You can see we're starting with the same BOM table style, but this one I'll just call it whole for the whole tolerance table. Okay, click Continue. The only difference here is this one is set downwards, right? Top down. So here, you can click OK and proceed just go ahead and click close, and now you can see I have in my table drop down menu, I have both BOM and whole table, and over here in leaders I've got my BOM call out. Now we're ready to annotate. So if I'm going to do the annotation for the parts, I'll go to the model, make sure the view is locked, alright, zoom in and start annotating your components. If we start first with the end plate here, go to leader, we already have it selected, use multi-leader, and this is where you can specify, do you want to specify the arrowhead first or the landing first, right? Now, let's see, it's already set to arrowhead. The other thing that I forgot to mention here is let's check the layer. So let's escape first. Okay, let's go to home and let's check our layer. You can see right now, since we haven't been drawing anything, that we're on the 0 layer. When you're going to do your annotations, okay, you can use your dims layer, or if you have a separate symbols layer that you want to use, you can do that too. Let's just use our dims layer for this. Again, let's restart. Let's go back to annotate, leaders. You can see we have BOM call out. We'll use multi-leader here. Come to the object, click at the object, and as we pull away here, okay, we'll be able to place our BOM call out. Now, notice that as I place it, what do you notice, right? You notice that that multi-leader is aligned with the UCS in the model, right? But what do I have here? I have an isometric view. So this is where, even though we have an annotated multi-leader style, this is where we actually want to put these annotations into the paper, okay? So we don't have to worry about the orientation or the UCS of our objects. So still using the dims layer, let's actually switch back to the paper space, and what we're going to do is we're going to add those annotations right here in the paper space on top of the viewport. Once again, if I go to multi-leader, I can select the object, and then as I place my multi-leader here, I can give it a number, call it number 1, and click OK. Now you can see the multi-leader. Notice how large that arrowhead is, right? Because you're using multi-leaders, here's the other thing. As I continue, I can use copy and simply copy the multi-leader and apply it to all the other components there. Right? And let's just come over here to the center pin. And notice now, let's say for the corner pin, I make a copy here. I'm just going to put it way over here, opposite, and escape. Alright? If I grab that arrowhead and I start to move it, notice how the orientation changes for the leader as well. Right? So notice how big those arrowheads are. Because it's a multi-leader style, you can always return to the style. Oops. There's multi-leader styles. You can always return to the multi-leader style to modify and adjust the leader format there. If we wanted to make it smaller, we could just do 0.125 and adjust, and you'll see all of them should adjust as well. Okay? So that's why you want to use those multi-leaders. Now, as we continue, I want to do the tables. Okay? So let's start first with the hold tolerance table. Okay? So again, if you have a layer for this information, let's say you have your TB notes layer, something like that, or your paper space notes layer. You can see I have it right here. Alright. And what you'll do is return to annotate, use tables. Now that you have the table styles created, right? If we're going to do the whole table first, let's make sure it's selected. We'll come over here and use table. Okay? You have a couple of options as to the way that you're going to insert this table, right? You can define the number of columns, in which case we have 2. And then this will be the general column width. And then you have your data rows, right? So consider that you have your header, and then you have the remaining rows. So I think here we have about 6. There's 7 there. I'm going to leave that there because I'll show you how you can add and remove rows as well. And you can see here the set cell styles. If I wanted to change this, I could do it here, but I'm going to keep it in the defaults. Click OK, and you'll notice, right, the table's already set to a certain size. But once I place it, I can actually resize it. So notice, this is the title. If I didn't want to use it, okay, what I could do is simply delete that row, right? Just delete that row. Now all I have are my headers. Now you'll notice the grips that appear once I have the first row selected, right? Look at this rotated rectangle. If I select this, I can drag it out and use to fill my rows and columns. But if I use this square one here, I can adjust the size of the table, right? So I can adjust the size of the column just by pulling these guys to the left and to the right. I should be able to select, here's the column width, there we go, and then pull to the right to adjust it. So you can play with that for a little bit, right, to get the right size for your table. And then what you'll be able to do is go ahead and input your information by double clicking. So we have item number here. Hit tab to go to the next cell, and then we have here tolerance for holes and pins. Okay, and then you could just input the information that's remaining there. Now, if I'm going to continue with the BOM table, okay, you're going to make some space here, and what you'll be able to do is go to tables, change your style, select BOM, come back again and use table command. And once again, you can see here we can determine the number of columns. We got a total of 4 columns. We have a basic width, and then also you have your data row quantity and row height. Click OK, and you can see there's a basic table. Okay, and again, if I don't want to use this row, I can just select the row, right click, delete row, and then fill in my information there. You'll be able to stretch your table, select the column headers, and then use those square grips to adjust the sizing. Okay, select the entire table by selecting the bottom left-hand corner there and using this rectangle to adjust the overall size of the table. So you'll reposition these, okay, fill in the information, update your table here, okay, your title block information block, and then finally make sure that you freeze your viewport layer so you can see your model floating, okay, in your view. You'll produce the PDF and then upload the PDF to the assignment page. Alright, so that completes Drawing Challenge 5, the fixture assembly model and presentation.